This changed my table saw.
This will change the way you use your table saw.
I can't even get on YouTube anymore without somebody else telling me about the Bow XT extender fence system.
This Bow XT extender fence,
The new Bose fence extender.
Bow products. It's called the Bow extender fence system.
In case you haven't heard of it, it's an extension that clamps onto your existing table saw fence. It provides in-feed support, out-feed support, and featherboards to push your work down and toward the fence.
Now, I'll be honest, I wanted one too until I took a good look at it and realized it may not be quite as revolutionary as your favorite YouTuber is telling you it is. So today, I'm gonna show you how to make one out of some scrap plywood you already have lying around and some hardware that you can order off of Amazon cheaply. Plywood has been hard to come by in the last few years, but fortunately it's starting to get affordable again. I've saved every scrap I could, and I think I have one that's just right for this project. Now, the largest of the Bow fence extensions is 46 inches long and 5 inches tall. I'm gonna make mine a little bit longer at 48 inches long and 5.5 inches tall because I just want it to be better. I'm also going to double the thickness of my plywood. Now, I don't think this is absolutely necessary, but I'm going to route some channels in it and it's gonna help it all hold together better. This is basically a board that you can hang things on. That's all it is. And that's why I'm gonna make it instead of buy it. You see, whether it's painted aluminum with a nice logo on it, or it's a piece of plywood that you've cut some tracks in, it's still the same thing. So let's pull out the router table. And yes, this is my router table. Shut up, it works. There are two ways to add the T-tracks we need, and I'm gonna show you both. Now, the first one is simple. You just buy them. These 12-inch ones are cheap, like 2 for $8.50, but the long ones can get pricey. Now, to install these, all you have to do is cut a 3/4 inch groove in your plywood and screw them in. The other way to do this is with a T-slot router bit. I bought this one for about $10. When you compare that to $25 or more for a 48-inch track, you see why. With this, I can cut as many of these slots as I want. See, the way this works, this part here cuts the slot that the head of the bolt would go in, and then this part cuts the slot for the shaft. By the time you're done, you have the same shape as a T-track. I'm cutting this slot the full length of the board, leaving about 1/2 inch untouched at the top. We'll use this slot to attach feather boards that are going to give downward pressure to hold a workpiece to the table. It also helps to sand the edges so that the bolt can slide through smoothly. Next, I'm going to measure the width of the fence and cut a board to go over the top. Then, I'm going to glue and screw that board to my fence extension. Now let's talk about how we're going to attach this extension to the fence. The original Bow system comes with T-track clamps that you can use to attach to a wide variety of fence systems, but I already know the fence that I'm going to use. It's the one on my table saw. So I'm gonna get toggle clamps because they're cheaper, they're easier to work with, and they're fun. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a company cut absolutely no corners to make the very best tool possible? They're called MetMo. You've probably at least seen one of their other products. They started by making an executive cube that was made with wire EDM technology, and it's so satisfying to just watch the pieces slip down. They took that same pursuit of excellence and they made, believe it or not, a screwdriver. This is the MetMo Pocket Driver. It's a ratcheting screwdriver based on an old patent, but updated for modern use. It accepts standard size bits, and this is about the most satisfying thing I've ever done with a tool. Practically speaking, it's built for torque. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you're trying to push down on a screwdriver and turn at the same time? It's a pain in the butt, but this, you can do it with one hand. And I could just sit and play with this thing all day long. I'm gonna give it to my dad. He's the guy that has everything, at least everything that I can afford, and I think he'd love this. Thanks to MetMo for making this video possible and making something that my dad doesn't have yet. On second thought, I think I'm keeping this. I like it too much. Okay, now that we have a fence extension, I'm going to make in-feed and out-feed supports. Now these couldn't be simpler. Just cut some rectangles, making sure they're wide enough to overhang the side of your fence by at least a few inches. Then drill some holes in so you can slide in bolts that will go into the T-tracks. And I love these knobs, but wing nuts would work too. By the way, I'll link to all these hardware pieces in the description below, so don't worry, I got you. This plywood has some ugly flaws. I try to hide them where I can, but I cut some notches in the end of my fence extension just for that reason. The plywood was ugly there. So you don't have to cut these notches in there, but I do think they look pretty good. For the finish, I'm using polyurethane and wax. Now the key to a good finish here is good surface preparation. The smoother you get the wood, the smoother your finish is going to be. Now, I could just cover this fence extension with a sheet of plastic, but when you think about it, polyurethane is a very thin sheet of plastic. So that's essentially what I'm doing. I wipe on one coat, then sand it back, and then wet sand in the second coat. After that, I apply paste wax and call it done. It's a nice, durable, smooth finish. Let's talk featherboards. I bought my featherboards, 2 for $14. Now, that may seem like a strange choice to anybody that's watched this channel for a while because I hate spending money. But by the time I bought all the hardware that I needed to make these work, I would have spent close to that anyway. So in this case, it was actually easier just to buy them. Now looking at this fence extension, I noticed that I have a lot of real estate up here on top. I could use it as a place to hold my pencils or something, but I wonder if I could attach this right about here. I'll drill some holes in a block of wood about the size of the hose so I can slide it up and down and take it out when I want to. Then I'm going to get some Simpson strong ties and some of the hardware that came with my new featherboards. I attach them all together, and then I'm going to route a 3/4 inch slot along the top of my fence extension. I'm going to put it in there and just let it ride in that slot. Now, let's test. That did nothing. Fortunately, I have some plexiglass, so let's build a blade guard. I'm going to make a paper template before I start cutting plexiglass because I want to get it just right. And then I'm going to take the paper template and make a wooden template because I know this is something that's going to need refinement in several versions. After I've got the pieces cut out, I'm going to bend it with heat. Now, this is kind of fun, but also kind of stressful. If this were anything more than a prototype, I'd pull out the epoxy, but for this, hot glue will work just fine. Well, it may not be pretty, but I think it works. The freaking thing works! Editor's note. As I'm looking back on this, I realize I made a mistake by not pushing the workpiece all the way clear of the blade. See, what can happen here is with it wedged between the fence and the blade, it can cause kickback, which is just a reminder that no matter what you put on your saw, there's no substitute for proper technique. So here's what I'm seeing. As long as this board stays underneath the blade guard, all the sawdust kind of hits here, swirls around, and gets sucked up. Once it goes through and it has a place to escape, it shoots back at me. I'm okay with that for now. You know, it still has some issues though, other than the fact that it's obviously ugly. It can go up and down, but it can't come out this way, which means that if I try to make a cut more than about 3 inches away from my fence, it can't do it. I have to just take it off. So let's call this version 1. And if you have ideas for how to improve on this idea, please let me know. Bow Products is a small business located right here in the United States, and I have absolutely nothing against them. I think they make great products, and I think that this is one of them. In fact, I'm sure it's already saved some fingers and prevented countless kickbacks. It may seem like I'm stealing their idea, but I'm really not. And everything that went into this product existed before it came to the market in late 2023. I'll prove it to you. About 11 years ago, a young man named Mark Spagnolo made a video showing off a table saw fence that was made of an aluminum extrusion so you could hang accessories on your fence. A couple years later, a video by Jer Smith has him temporarily clamping thin extrusions on a fence. It's a router fence, but it looks familiar, doesn't it? A video I found from 8 years ago shows a proper fence extension overhanging an outfeed table, and a year later, another video shows the same thing in a simple clamp-on version. Good job, Jimbo. Now, check out this thing from 5 years ago. It clamps on. It moves forward and backward on T-bolts. We're getting really close here. The next year, we get a video showing a plywood fence extension with in-feed support. So there's that part. Next, I want to show you a couple of Ron Paulk videos where he makes two versions of the same fence extension, but the first one slides over the fence and the second one clamps onto the fence. They each have a T-track routed in for using featherboards, or in his case, roller guides. A few months later, Bow Products came out with their XT extender fence system, and I, along with about 500,000 other people, heard it first from Matt at 731 Woodworks. But Bow put it all together and brought the product to market, and they did a great job. Is it better than the one I built? Probably. Those featherboards look great, but is it worth almost $300? The better question is it worth that much to you? I look at it like this. Most people either have more time than money or more money than time. If you're in the camp that has more time than money, this is the solution for you. But if you are in that group that just has more money than time, well, the Bow fence extender, it looks like a great product. Of course, I've never tried it. And if there is anyone at Bow Products that'd like to send me one to do a comparison, I would be happy to do that. I want to give a big thank you to MetMo for making this video possible, and to my Patreon community, because you guys are just awesome. Down below, I'll leave a link to the MetMo Pocket Screwdriver, to my Patreon community, and to a list of all the hardware I used to build this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Welcome to our workshop, everyone, let's start the show. May not be the best tune, but hey, we'll give it a go. So sit back, relax, and don't you fret. Learn a lot, we won't forget. Here we go. It might get a bit awkward, but we'll make it through, laugh along the way, just me